Hello everybody and welcome to Jolly Old London. Today we're going to be taking a look at a weapon from Fallout London. This is a mod that somewhat recently came out for Fallout 4, and it's basically an entire rebuild of Fallout 4. It has been a long time coming, and it is a very, very fun mod. I would highly recommend you check it out if you haven't already. In order to do this, you will need to go through GOG, which is also honestly my second or sometimes my first favorite place to actually buy games besides Steam. Besides that, we're actually going to be taking a look at the Enfield Rifle in Fallout London, or the Service Rifle as it's called in this game. And the Service Rifle in Fallout London is a really cool weapon. Now, pretty much all of the weapons in Fallout London, with a few exceptions, are modded weapons. And one thing that I can really appreciate about this weapon and a lot of the weapons that they chose for London is that they are all really well made, which is awesome because I've voiced my opinions about Fallout 4's weapons before, and I don't think they're the greatest design. Most of them are really weird and really chunky, but modders have fixed that quite a bit, so this is a great example of it, and the Enfield looks absolutely amazing in this. I mean, it looks like an Enfield, it sounds like an Enfield, it functions like an Enfield. All of those are really, really cool, even though I've never actually shot an Enfield. I've shot plenty of bolt-action rifles, just not particularly an Enfield, so that would be something that would be kind of cool to try one day. So, the Enfield, you can actually find all throughout the game in Fallout London. This is a premier weapon of the Tommies faction. The Tommies faction is almost like a World War I-ish version of an army, or like the NCR from Fallout New Vegas, and I guess Fallout 1 and 2 as well. They are somewhat of an organized military operation, and they have a whole lot of old British weapons. There's actually a whole lot of old British weapons in here, like the Enfield Rifle, which was the premier rifle of the British during World War I and World War II. So it makes perfect sense that this fits into the world of Fallout. You see this all over London, especially to the mid and late games, where enemies have a lot of Enfields, and they're pretty good, especially in the early game, because these things do pretty good damage. So the damage numbers that I'm going to be sharing on here are probably not the base damage numbers, but I am doing this on a character that has everything kind of maxed out, and I'll just be going off of the base statistics, not actually off of the maximum amount of damage that you can have with upgrades and all that fun stuff. So the Enfield Rifle does 92 damage per shot, which is pretty good. That's not bad compared to most guns. It actually gets a lot of value per shot. This one has kind of low damage per second though because of its slow rate of fire. This actually only has a rate of fire of 4. This is one of the weapons that uses the 303 round, which makes perfect sense because that's actually what an Enfield uses. So I really appreciate that little detail too, that they got, I think, all of or almost all of the calibers correct on these weapons, or at least close enough calibers to what you would kind of expect without them going over, tons and tons of different calibers that they could fit in. The Enfield has 215 range by default, which is pretty good. That's very long range. It has 73 accuracy, also very high accuracy, and these only weigh 6.3 weight, so they're not actually that heavy to be picking up, which is fantastic because that means you can sell them for a lot of money, and picking them up will get you more ammo for an Enfield or a dozen other weapons that also use the 303 round. This is probably going to be the most common 303 weapon that you do find. For the pros of the Enfield, really long range and good damage. This is fantastic for the start. It's really good at any point in the game. I managed to get an instigating one on my very first run that I was playing on London, so I just kept that thing with me the entire time, and it is super satisfying to use. Like, the animations and the mod itself for the Enfield is fantastic. It looks incredible. It sounds amazing. The reload is really good, and the reload can actually happen in multiple ways. This also only holds 5 rounds in it by default, although regular Enfields in real life would hold 10, and you can choose that option with the Enfield. So that's not really a knock against it that it only holds 5 rounds. That's perfectly reasonable. And the major con to the Enfield would be that it has a slow rate of fire, as you'd kind of expect. Bolt-action rifles don't shoot very fast, so follow-up shots can be kind of hard. At least if you are being rushed by something, so you do kind of want to take your time and mostly be using this at long and medium range. Let's go over the build for the Enfield, and one thing that I really liked about Fallout London is that you can kind of build your weapon however you would like, and it's not always that weapons dramatically change based on what sort of receiver you're basically putting on the weapon. Some of them do. This is a case of one that does, but a lot of the different changes to the weapons kind of make sense, and they're usually based off of real life at the very least, prototypes of the weapons. So first up with the Enfield, you do want to have the advanced receiver. That is the strongest receiver in the game. You're going to need to get up gun nuts so that you can fix up your weapon all the way to make this, or you're going to have to find a modded version of an Enfield off of somebody and put an advanced one on this if you want the most amount of damage. Next up is the barrel, and you actually have a lot of very strange options for the barrel. So the standard rifle barrel, which is the full-length rifle barrel, is what you usually have on the Enfield. However, you can get a shorter version of this, and this isn't really like a carbine version of it. This is like it's been like sawed off, and then there's even a minier version of that. There's also a jungle carbine barrel and a suppressed barrel, which the suppressed barrel makes it so you can't really aim with the sights. You just have to aim with the front post of the suppressor, which is fine. The suppressor's pretty cool looking too. I believe it's based off of some of those sporterized hunting rifles. These different rifles were, I believe, rechambered to take something like pistol caliber rounds, and then just had this giant suppressor on them. I'm not entirely certain why that was, if it was just something fun that people were doing. I don't know the full background about those type of guns, but they do look interesting. This doesn't actually change the caliber. You can't actually change the Enfield's caliber, although you can with quite a few other weapons that we'll be talking about sometime in the future. Usually I just go with the standard barrel here, though. The other barrels are kind of funny, like the super stubby one is really funny if you want to make like an Obrez, which, I mean, I was using for a bit, and it's actually not that bad. It's still fairly accurate. So, I mean, if you've always wanted that, you could do it. If you want a full-sized rifle, you can do that, and I think that one looks the best. And same thing goes with the stock. You can either have the full stock or the sawed-off stock. Don't actually really lose anything for taking the sawed-off stock, but I like the look of the full stock much better, so I'm always going to put that one on there. For the reload, you actually have a couple of different options, because you can take 5 rounds manually reloaded, so every time you go to reload the gun, you'll see your person thumbing rounds in. You can put 5 into there that way, and that's the total magazine size. You can also go with 10, which will also be 10 rounds that you thumb in by hand. This increases the magazine size to 10, but it does increase the reload because you just have a longer reload animation. It's either 5 or 10. There's no other option there. And then you also have stripper clip options, which those are the ones I like the most, which are either 5 rounds and then that's it, or 10 rounds, so 2 5-round clips into it. I like the stripper clips the best. I think the animation is fantastic on them. They look really good. For sights, you can really pick whatever you'd like. The Enfield has fantastic iron sights. I really like it. You can have glow sights, which I think are the best, and that's the one that I go for. But if you're not a fan of that, you can do the flip-up ladder sights, which are pretty awesome. You can also do glowing ladder sights, or you could even have something like a scope on there, and there's multiple different scopes you can put on the Enfield. This does have an ammo option, but it's only 303, so you can't change that. Just keep it as 303. I don't know why that's there, although there are some other weapons, like the Webley, that is always in the 4.55, and it can be rechambered into like man-stopping rounds or semi-wad cutter rounds, but the Enfield actually doesn't have an option like that, so I don't know why they actually kept that here for this mod. And then the last thing you can add to the Enfield, and definitely the weirdest thing, and as well as I don't think a thing that actually affects it at all, is that you can tape up your Enfield. You can just put tape on it, and this is 1 roll of tape, 2 rolls of tape, 3 rolls of tape, or 4 rolls of tape. If you want to put tape on your Enfield, you can go for that. If you don't, then I don't think you're missing out on much. It actually takes your adhesive, which kind of sucks because adhesive is just as important in this one as it is in regular Fallout 4. So I would just recommend not using tape, but it's your choice if you want to do that. The Enfield Rifle was by far one of the most satisfying weapons that I played around with in Fallout London. I would highly recommend that you get this and try it out. It is super good. I guess for a rating or an overall tier rating, I'm going to put this up like high into B tier or low A tier. I think it's a very solid weapon. It's really cool. We're probably not going to have like a tier list thing that I do, because otherwise I'd have to go and get already existing models of different things. But I will just put up a big old rating here. And I think a solid B tier is pretty good. The Enfield still kind of gets beat out by some other weapons later on. Like the FAL kind of beats it out because that can also be a semi-auto rifle. It fires a lot faster. It holds 20 rounds, or maybe more. I actually don't remember if that thing gets an extended mag or not. It's still really good though. Like I said, on my very first run, I ended up getting instigating one of these, and I used it for the entire playthrough. It was really strong. It was a very good use of the 303 rounds, and yeah, it was just a super satisfying weapon. So tell me your thoughts on the Enfield. How do you like this weapon's design? And if you're going to be playing Fallout London, try this one out. I would highly recommend it. Thank you guys so very much for watching this. I'm going to be going over probably all, or at least most of the weapons in Fallout London, as well as the perks, because some of them have been changed. Tell me what you'd like to see next, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye-bye, everybody.